Hey there, winos. This is VINCE.WINE, and I am really excited today. In case you can't sense my energy, I've got a sake sommelier here with me today, and I'm so excited to see what it is that she can teach me today. I know literally nothing about sake, so let's pop some corks, if sake has corks. I don't know if sake has corks. I think it's twist cap, actually, on a very special sake edition of Uncorked.
Hello, my name is Lorene Toji Ellsbury. I'm Japanese American, and my maiden name, Toji, actually also means sake brewer in Japanese. So I try to use my married name, Ellsbury, so people don't get confused that I'm an actual sake brewer. I got into sake working for a Japanese restaurant supply import company, and there we kind of had sake all the time. I learned that I kind of had a good taste buds and was able to help them with sake pairing. We did a lot of sake events, and from there I decided I would further my sake experience and get a sommelier certification.
Talk to me a little bit about what did the becoming a sake sommelier, what did that entail?
Drinking a lot of sake.
Drinking a lot of sake, okay.
I took this course called the Sake Professional Course from John Gottner, one of the top sake evangelists living in Japan. He's actually an American guy, but he is one of the top sake people in Japan, spreading the word. And he started a sake professional course, so I went to Japan and I took his course.
Very cool. You say sake evangelist. That's gotta be the coolest thing. Okay, so does sake need evangelism?
It does, because the young people in Japan actually don't drink too much sake right now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and the sales have...
What do they drink?
They drink beer and wine.
Okay, wine.
Yeah, wine is
popular.
very popular in Japan.
Okay. I just can't get over the fact that your last name meant a sake brewer. That is so cool. Was that ordained, you think?
Well, it's a different Chinese character, but yeah, my destiny was maybe sake.
Awesome. So I really am not joking around here. I know nothing about sake. I know that it's from polished rice. I've heard of the traditional ceremonies using saliva and stuff to make it. I don't know if that's how common that is, if you bottle that stuff, or if that's just for ceremonies. So I know nothing about sake. Let's start with this. What is sake?
Well, they said the very first sake was made by monkeys chewing on rice and spitting it out.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Lovely drink, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then it went on to these temple girls that worked for the temple, and they had to be virgins, and they chewed on the rice and spit it out, had it fermented, and that turned into sake.
Wow.
But nowadays it's a more pristine.
Okay. A bit more sanitary.
And sanitary.
Okay, yeah. Would you say that sake from the very beginning, from the stories you just told me, has really evolved a lot during, It has. How's it evolved?
And it has evolved a lot within just the last 50 or so years, after World War II as well. Okay. I mean, just the ginjo sakes, or the artisanal sakes that we're trying today, are highly polished, and the rice polishing machines that could polish the rice kernel down to 30% of the kernel left or 23% of the kernel left are very new to the industry.
So the inside you've got what is the anatomy of a rice?
So you've all seen rice, right? Well, the sake rice has a small starchy ball in the center of the kernel, and that's pure starch. So the closer to that pure starch you get, the cleaner the flavor you're going to get in the sake.
Wow. And so sake rice, is that a different sort of grain or different kind of rice than rice for eating, for consumption?
Yes, it is. It's a bigger grain, and then the rice for eating doesn't have the concentrated starch center.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that makes a big difference, I'm sure. Very cool. So what have you brought for us today?
I brought two very popular sake. Right now, dasai is very popular. You can see these in most of the markets and a lot of restaurants.
And dasai, that's the producer?
The producer, and the name of this particular sake
is dasai. Awesome, very cool. And you've also brought?
Suige.
Suige, and that's another producer.
Another producer, yes.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to pop these bad boys open, or twist them open, and see what we can see.
This is very interesting. It has this kind of top. You don't see that often. It's usually just a screw top, and it just pops open.
Beautiful. Why don't you tell me about these little cups? Why are we using these?
Okay, these are what sake sommeliers use. It's called a kiki choco, and they have two concentric blue circles in there, and that's so you could discern color and clarity. So if you put the sake in there, most sakes are clear, but some will have like a little amber tinge to it. And then if they get too brown, that means they've been stored wrong or have gone bad. So you really want to look at the color of your sake.
Okay, is there a technique that we need to know on pouring sake?
Not for tasting. When you're
Okay.
with company, you need to use two hands, label faced up.
Mm-hmm.
And you always want to pour with two hands for company. It's just you never pour anything with one hand. Yeah.
Wow, so one of the
That's
first
right.
things that I can notice right now is it is super, super fragrant. This is really aromatic. I can smell this. I'm about a foot away from the sake, and also, yeah, it's incredible how very, very clear it is. It's more watery than yellow, I would say, but you know, I'm sure as I see a few here, I'll start to notice the color differences here. I do see some tones of sort of a almost a yellowy tone coming from them, or from the one on the left. In particular, are they? You poured two different ones here.
Yes.
Yeah, the one on my right here does seem to be a little more clear, and then the one on the left seems to be a little bit more, yeah, with those yellow tones. And I'm almost wondering if that's gonna mean anything as far as mouthfeel as well. I'm almost wondering if that's going to talk a little bit about a little deeper mouthfeel. You're giving me a no.
Maybe not too much of the mouthfeel. So if you don't have these kikichak were actually kind of hard to find. I even had a hard time finding them in Japan. But if you have wine glasses, that's perfectly fine to taste them in wine glasses as well. And that's actually probably more of the trend these days, because these cups were invented before a lot of the artisanal sakes were developed. And sake nowadays are very fragrant, much more fragrant than they were before.
Yeah, it's really, really clear, and again, super aromatic. So I'm just gonna taste this the same way that I would wine. I'm looking at it right now, and what's funny is just from instinctually, I am leaning the glass towards me, and I do see some legs on there, and so I'm wondering again, is that going to tell me a little bit about alcohol or viscosity, or possible residual sugar? I doubt there's going to be residual sugar in this. I don't know that's part of the process, but let's take the nose. Wow. A lot of green apple on there. I'm getting definitely some like green apple, and I'm getting like really white florals and white fruit. I almost want to go to like yellow apple also, and there's almost like this earthiness to it as well that I'm wondering if it's gonna be mineral or earth, or almost like mushroomy, more savory things on the palate. But that's all just on the nose. Let's see how we do. How am I doing so far? Okay, all right.
It's exactly like wine tasting.
Okay.
Once you get it out of the cup into your mouth.
Now, do I want to do anything with it once I get it on the palate?
Just like wine tasting, aerate it.
Okay.
Swish it around.
That's good. That is really good. The first thing I notice here, and the first thing that hits me, and it's still with me even now, is mouthfeel. This seems to be all about the mouthfeel. It is much more body on here than I would have imagined. It kind of looks and acts almost watery in the glass, but once it gets on the palate, it isn't syrupy, but it's thicker than I would have imagined. So that's the first thing. It is really, really, I'm going to use a newbie wine term, smooth, right? It's very smooth.
Very velvety.
Very velvety, very silky, but it does enter very silky, and it finishes silky, and that doesn't go away. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't evolve into anything like gritty. There's no kind of like tannin structure or texture that I can pick up. It really is like a thick cloud that just enters and stays that way. And then the next thing that really hits me is fruit. I'm really getting a lot of fruit out of this, and I know there's more, and I'm missing it, and I want to get to it. So what else should I be looking for?
In wine, you don't really talk about umami too much, but in sake,
umami
is full of umami.
Okay, so what's umami?
Umami, what is umami? Umami is, to me, it's a mouthfeel, and it's a flavor that enhances the flavor of your foods.
What kind of things have umami?
Beef. Mushrooms, tomatoes, cheese.
You mentioned just a lot of very savory kind of elements there. So yeah, beef. I've heard like soy sauce is supposed to be a really good example of umami. Yeah. This is really good. So what am I drinking again? I'm
Okay,
sorry.
this is dasai.
Dasai.
And it's a junmai daiginjo.
Junmai Daiginjo.
And junmai refers to the fact that it's only made out of rice, water, and yeast and koji mold.
What's koji mold?
Koji mold is a fungi, and it helps the rice to convert its starches to sugar. Because unlike grapes already have the sugar in there, and then the yeast just converts the sugar to alcohol.
Yeast. So where does the yeast come from? Is that something that's added, or is that natural in the rice?
It's added, or it could be present in the sake brewery itself.
In the brewery?
In the brewery itself.
Okay.
But yeast is what determines all the flavoring of sake. Because rice doesn't taste like much, right?
Okay.
Because yeast produces the esters when it's fermenting.
The esters.
So esters is what brings out all those apple flavors, strawberry flavors, pineapple flavors, lychee, the fruit, the florals you hear.
Stop. Interesting. Okay, cool. I'll go ahead and volatilize those esters and get the wine on the nose, or excuse me, the sake on the nose. Oh my gosh, you know what's funny? Once I have it on the nose from here, it actually smells a lot more like wine.
Rydell has actually developed 2 glasses for sake tasting.
And they just bring out the nose more. Yeah. But I'm probably just confirming the same thing that I got before. I definitely get kind of yellow fruit, white fruit, and maybe just a hint of earthy thing that's in there. I can't really quite put my finger on it. I don't want to say all the way to mushroom, but it's something something that's
There's
like
a
that.
lot of mushroomy notes in a lot of the sake because of the mold and rice and yeast. Those things have very earthy components to them.
Okay, I'm gonna put it on the palate here.
I feel like it spreads completely different when you use the wine glass.
Now, is it me, or is there something almost creamier? You know, there's like a creaminess to it that I didn't notice that first time around. And you're right, I think it's because it did envelop my palate a little bit more than the sips I was taking earlier. But there's almost like this, I want to say like a powdery kind of flavor to it, almost like you powdered a piece of you know, like dried fruit or something like that, you know, or like what am I thinking of? Almost like not peach fuzz, but something along those lines. And then another thing that I'm noticing a little bit more here than the first take is alcohol. I am getting a little bit more on the alcohol here, so I want to say this is close to it seems slightly highish to me. It seems like it might be close to 15%.
Yeah. So the average alcohol of sake is 15 to 16%.
Okay, yeah, it seems like 15.6, 15.7. Holy moly, and that's 16% alcohol right there. I called about 15.7, so yeah, that's definitely a little bit higher than usually white wines, but there are white wines that are grown in warm areas like Viognier that can reach up to 16% alcohol, 16.5 even, so it's certainly not hot. It's not like outrageous. I'm not getting a mouthful of heat here. It is really pleasant and well integrated.
Well, they actually water it down from 20.
Okay, so, starts at 20,
it's at about 20.
and then they bring it down, right?
Sake has the highest alcohol production for a naturally fermented beverage.
Of anything?
Of anything.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Yeah, well, it definitely adds some body and some flavor. It's really, really yummy. Okay, so I took this through on my own, just with the general wine knowledge that I have. But what I'd love to do is have you take me through it and just talk me through what I'm supposed to see, smell, and taste and finish with as much as you can. And we'll see how close that was.
Actually, there's no right and wrong.
Yes, then I'm okay.
So, I think sake sommeliers are less critical of what flavors people perceive in the sake because there's an understanding that everybody has a different palate and there's so much going on. Like, what did you eat beforehand today? Because the amino acids, the umami flavors really react with things that you've eaten. So later on, I kind of want you to try some dried squid legs.
Oh my goodness,
okay?
Dried squid legs. I didn't bring any, so I'm assuming that. Okay.
I brought a few.
All right, sounds good. All right, take me through it.
Okay, so just sake sommeliers usually don't swirl, but maybe nowadays they do. I don't know.
Whoops, sorry. So what's on the nose there for you?
It's getting more yogurt acidic now as it's warming up.
Yogurt acidic?
More of the earthy tones are coming out now that it's warming up.
Yeah, it does have a lot of earth in there, and I didn't know exactly what to put, the name to put to that. I hate the power of suggestion, but it does remind me of sort of like a mushroomy kind of thing happening there.
Yes.
Also on the nose, before we get here, is it wrong to say like orange? It's a little bit like orange on the nose as well.
I
Not
get pineapple.
pineapple. Okay, I knew there was some kind of like citrus going on in there, but I couldn't exactly put my name on it. And I'll tell you this, I'm getting the pineapple more on the palate than I was on the nose. There was something kind of just a little bit more citrusy on the nose. Not that there's a whole lot of citrus. Just reminded me maybe like orange blossoms on the nose, and then on the palate, yeah, totally. It does remind me. Again, there's the power of suggestion, but it also helps me to put up the name onto what it is that I'm tasting. This is why it's so important to taste with people that know what they're talking about, because yeah, certainly it might be power of suggestion, but at the same time, it helps you to put that name to the taste. Have you ever had that experience where you're just like, gosh, it's right on the tip of my tongue, literally, and you're wondering, what is that? And then someone goes and says, freshly cut grass. And you go, yes, that's it, freshly cut grass. Absolutely. Well, that is what just happened to me, and pineapple.
But notice how the tail is not as long as wine. It's very short.
Is the tail a technical term for sake, or is that interchangeable with Finnish, or do you guys usually say
well,
tail?
Everything's translated from Japanese to English, so they use tail.
Got it. Well, the tail, I'm left with a little bit of less of the fruit, more of that sort of like almost like textury kind of, again, that sort of savory side that's
creamy.
left.
I think that's the amino acids that suggesting the umami that's in here.
Okay, and you did say there is kind of a creaminess, because that is something that I found, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't off my rocker.
No,
as
this
I
one is very creamy.
Got that creaminess, right? Cool. I'm not crazy. All right. What else? Talk to me.
So this one, the rice polish ratio is 39. So it's polished from the outside until you only have 39% of the kernel left.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that's a pretty pure starch.
What's like the best? What's like the can you get like 0%?
This company has a 20. There won't be any rice left.
Oh, okay. Right. You need it for the sake.
So this company has a 23% as their best sake. It's not necessarily the best sake for you though. It depends like what you like, because the more the rice is polished, the cleaner, crisp taste you'll get, but it won't necessarily taste complex sometimes. And is that to say that there's more complexity with more rice, or is there kind of like a balance somewhere? There's more complexity. It might be off-putting for some people.
What kind of stuff? I want to know. What kind of flavors do you get out of that?
Well, each sake is different. Depends on the yeast,
Sure.
Whether you get the florals or the mushroom or the grass. But they're just more pronounced, kind of a more chewier sake.
Do I get to drink this now, or are we going to say anything else about it? Because this is actually really good. I love it. So what would I have with this? What do I want to eat with this?
I like shrimp dishes with this and fish.
I would say if I had to relate this close to any kind of wine, I want to say more of like a Chenin Blanc, because it has a lot of these, like, again, white fruits and white florals. It doesn't have like something crisp and dry like a Sauvignon Blanc might have, and it's not all so creamy that it's like a Chardonnay. Chardonnay is another one that would be really similar to, but it's missing some of that, certainly not like the toasty side of Chardonnay, and not certainly like the minerally or stainless steel side of Chardonnay either. It's not that really crisp, bright. It's mellow, and again, kind of this appley flavors to it, and I could totally see this with like shrimp or something of that kind. Yeah, very cool. So one more time, what was the name of this guy?
Dasai.
Dasai. Let's get a quick shot of this.
39.
And how much was Dasai 39?
This was about $11, $12-ish for this small bottle.
$11 or $12 for the small bottle. Cool. So this is a half bottle, and for a full bottle?
25 to 30.
That's really not bad. Cool. Do you want to talk to me a little bit about what I'm looking at here on the labels, or any way that I can figure out how to buy this besides that Dasai 39? Or is any of this important that I'm looking at here? I see this looks like it could be, I don't know if that's an expiration.
The date is very important. You don't want to go a year and a half past that date.
A year and a half past the date is about right. Cool. And anything else I want to see on there?
The sake percentage is the alcohol percentage.
The alcohol percent here, and then obviously the name here, the Junmai Dai Ginjo. So that's really important as to that style, right?
Yes. So the Dai Ginjo is the ones that are polished the most, so they'll be the most pricey as well.
The Dai Ginjo are the most polished, so they'll be the most pricey. Understood. Cool. Okay, so that is Junmai Dai Ginjo. So do we have this other one? Is this a different kind of sake?
Yes, this is a Junmai Ginjo.
Junmai Ginjo, so it's missing the dai. What?
Missing the dai. Right. So the requirements for a Junmai is it used to be a rice polish ratio of 70 or more, but now they just require it to be made out of pure rice mold and yeast and nothing
That's the
else
koji
added.
mold, and then the
And the
yeast.
yeast and water.
And water.
Because some of the sakes have added alcohol to it.
Added alcohol. Okay, I thought they were watering down.
They are watering it down,
Mhm.
but one style, it won't say junmai on it, just as good. Well, it's controversial.
Okay,
in the
in your
sake
opinion,
industry.
sure.
They can be just as good,
Okay.
but they have a little bit of added alcohol. Some brewers believe that some esters are more dissolvable in alcohol, so they could get more fragrant.
Okay, so that's a way to open up and volatilize
Yeah.
those esters, adding the alcohol,
Yes.
which it opens
And
up
it's
those
not a lot.
aromatics. Sure.
Yeah.
Because they all want to shoot for that target, sort of 15-16%, right?
And in the end, they water it down again, so
Oh wow.
so it'll
So
still
it's
be
purely an alcohol bomb for
it's still
those aromatics.
Yes.
And then they go back in and they put it in that right kind of bracket.
yes.
Very cool. This is the drunken whale. That's going to be me in a minute. Swige. Is that right?
Suige.
Suige, all right,
Yes,
said that right.
The drunken whale.
The drunken
From
whale.
Kochi Prefecture.
Say it again.
Kochi.
Kochi Prefecture. Okay.
And they have the highest per capita alcohol consumption in
Oh,
Japan.
okay. Excellent.
So it's a very
These guys know how to drink.
Yes. So it's a very drinkable sake.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take it from the glass here. Why don't you come on in and get a look at my glass. It doesn't look cloudy, so those blue rings are showing me, right, that it's not very cloudy. And so I'll go ahead and take the nose on that one. And I'm having a bit of a hard time actually finding the nose on this one. Oh, this one has almost like a more like sweet, soury sweet. It almost reminds me of like a tropical bubble gum or something like that. It's like a strip of bubble gum, like those zebra, bubble gums that you get that are like coated in sugar first. That's just what I'm getting on the nose. But let's see how that does on the
Cotton
palate.
candy.
Cotton candy! Oh my goodness! Yes, very good. I knew I was thinking of some kind of like powdered sweetness on there, so my mind went to bubble gum, but cotton candy totally is on there. Absolutely. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, that is good. The difference is this one's got a little bit more acidity to it, in my opinion. So my mouth right now is just covered in watering really, really heavily, and that tells me that this might stand to something a little bit more acidic. The alcohol kicker is in there, so that might be consistent with sakes just because of that higher alcohol volume they do tend to have at about 16%, kind of the pushes at high end of white wines or even red wines. Yeah, certainly this one gave me a lot of that, as you said, sort of that cotton candy. I am going to stick with my bubble gum. I get a little bit of this like powdery bubble gum.
A little bit of burnt sugar, maybe a little creme brulee.
Burnt sugar, creme brulee. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, yeah, there is almost this like a caramelly texture, or not texture, but flavor that comes in with it. Okay, one thing this is missing that the other one had, that sort of umami, that savoriness, doesn't seem to be as prevalent in this one. This one's definitely about the fruit and that sort of sweet cotton candy flavor going on with it, unlike the other that was really focused on that sort of mushroom kind of a mineral and kind of earthiness to it.
So the producers of Suige wanted this wine to go with food, so you could drink it all night with food and not get tired of it. So it's more subdued.
Now I'll try it in the wine glass and see how much more I can pick up out of that. How do you find that it changes in the glass?
I feel like more of the acidity components come out because it spreads. It spreads completely different. Like this kind of shoots straight down.
Totally. I mean, one of the things that I noticed with the tase was that once I moved to the wine glass, it really kind of hit me in all the right places. I think I might have preferred it more that way. Would you say that more people are moving to different kinds of glassware, or is this more of a traditional thing, these cups here, or is that a better way to taste? Is there a better way to taste?
I think probably the wine glass is the better way to taste, and probably where it's going. So if you go to like tasting sessions, tasting events, it depends who's putting on the event. If they're more forward thinking, they might use wine glasses. If they're more traditionalist, they're still going to stick with the Kiki Choco.
Say the name of it again.
Kiki Choco.
Kiki.
Choco.
Choco.
Like chocolate.
Oh,
Choco.
Kiki Choco. Okay.
So this is called a Choco.
Choco.
And Kiki means tasty.
Tasting. So basically a tasting, what's Choco mean?
Cup.
The tasting cup.
Yeah.
Kiki Choco. I'll swirl my Kiki Choco here. Let's see. Perfumed vegetation. I can't really say what
I
it
had
is.
a hard time like picking out different adjectives for this one.
And it does almost seem like in both of them, you almost can smell the sea or something in there. Like it reminds me of like this like almost a seaweed or something. Like that's.
I
in
actually
there.
had my son smell it, and he was like, strawberries and salt water.
Salt water, there you go.
I'm like, wow, he's 7, so.
Her son watches all my videos. He's 7 years old, so you winos can start young.
You like your facial expressions.
All the silly faces. Excellent. I know who my audience is.
The young winos.
Okay, so as I've spent some time with this one on the palate, I can tell you it does feel really nice is the one thing. I noticed that on both of them. They've got a really gorgeous, very light mouthfeel, and it's rich, but it manages to like almost float on my palate rather than being like syrupy or thick. Is that typical?
I think it's mostly because there's no tannins, and the acidity is like maybe 1/5 of that of wine, so it's a more smoother mouthfeel.
What would you have this one with?
Anything. It goes with
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken. It goes with fried. It goes with oily things. It goes with fish. It goes with
Pizza.
pizza. No,
Well,
maybe
not anything.
Maybe not pizza.
Sure.
Actually, I find that sake doesn't really go well with carbs too much.
Ah, okay.
Even though it's made out of rice,
Mhm.
I feel it goes better with proteins and fats rather than.
Very cool. Okay, well, of the two of them, that was the Junmai Daiginjo that we had, and this was the, I can't remember, Junmai Ginjo. So is this a lower class of sake by any means, or just a different kind?
In some people's eyes, it might be a lower grade sake
Sure.
because the rice polish ratio is less.
Okay.
So it takes less rice to make. Because of course you have the sake snobs who like only want to drink Daiginjo. And but they're missing out on all the more complex flavors of maybe a junmai.
I think she's calling me a sake snob. You know what? I have to say I may be a little bit of a sake snob because certainly I could tell that I really did like the dasai. Now, I've only tasted now really well and critically two sake in my life, which are these two right in front of us, right? So I will say that yes, my experience is limited, but between the two, certainly I like the dasai. It just had a lot more to offer as far as everything from mouthfeel to aromatics, and even the overall flavor spanning from all of that beautiful fruit, and then also hitting me in that umami and savoriness on the palate, which was really, really enjoyable.
But I think the real test is when you try it with food.
Ah, great segue. Let's try some squid legs. And I'll let you get that set up. Let's eat some squid. Okay, what are we having here?
So one test I use for whether I like a sake or not is to eat it with an umami-rich food. And an umami-rich food that goes extremely well with sake are dried squid legs.
So here we have our dried squid legs, and I imagine you can just pick this up from your local grocery store.
Oh, Japanese grocery store.
Oh, okay. All right,
Or
Japanese
Asian grocery store.
All right, they have this at Walgreens. Just grab it right
quite
there.
not there yet.
All right, cool. So this is squid leg, and you just poured me some more of the one that I liked, the Junmai Daiginjo, correct?
Yes, right here.
Oh, it's that one over there?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna grab it from you. Is that okay?
Sure.
Excuse me. All right, so how do I want to do this, Joe? And typically in wine, you taste and then bite and then taste. Do I
Yes.
want to follow that same structure?
Sure.
Great. I'm gonna go back and taste this guy here. There's just something so elegant and classy about the Junmai Daiginjo. I guess I am a sake snob, but I really do love that.
But there's all
nose.
different. Again,
It's so complex.
Yeah, there's all different kinds of aromas. There's ones that have the fruit that's subdued too. Again, depending on what yeast the brewer uses. You're gonna get
Gosh, that's just good. That is just good. Okay, so now I have it coating the palate. I'll go ahead and do this. And is there a way to do this, or do I just eat the whole thing?
you don't need to eat the whole thing. Probably
I'm gonna
just,
take the
like-
big. I'm gonna take this this nice looking guy right here. He looks like he swam a lifetime to reach me. While it's on here,
No, eat it.
you know, it actually tastes like sort of beef jerky, but with just a tinge of like fishiness to it. But it's really well seasoned. It's actually pretty good. Okay, so now I'm gonna have this wash it down with the sake, right? Oh man. Okay. Won't lie, wasn't a hugely life-changing experience, but I can certainly tell you that that was the right thing to wash this down with. It coated everything really well. So, you know, it didn't overpower the flavor, and it didn't give me a different flavor altogether. It really was complementary to what I was just eating.
But do you feel like a mouthfeel change?
Now, was I
There.
supposed to feel a mouthfeel change? I can't really say. Let's try it again. I don't mind. Get back in there. I hate it when my food fights with me. It's pretty good. Now, what I can tell you is that it is just really rich. It's so rich as I wash it down, and it just coats the palate really, really well. I wouldn't say there's too much of a flavor change. It was very complimentary. Like, I wouldn't want to have had this squid without the sake. They enhanced that experience for me. It was the right move. Yeah, definitely.
So sake is very much like that with food. It's more forgiving than wine, I think.
Well, that was absolutely delicious. I'm gonna have one more here because it was yummy. Is anybody gonna join me? You want to join me?
Try with the suige.
With the which?
Suige.
Oh, suige. Okay, don't mind if I do. Oh, I like that better. I like that better with the food. So, you know what's funny is that even some wines do want food in order to make them a bit more palatable, and I don't mean that in such a bad way, but for example, there are some wines that are so tannic that they really, really need like something rich to cut into that tannin so that your mouth isn't just puckering and it's not just, you know, drying out your entire palate. So it's kind of a similar experience here. Okay, so now we're gonna do some rapid fire questions, and I want some quick answers if it's possible. I know that might be difficult. All right, here we go. So where do I buy sake?
You can buy it at a Japanese grocery store, Mitsuwa or Marukai.
Mitsuwa or Marukai.
And online at True Sake, or there's a store on Hayes Street in San Francisco. Bo Timken is the owner there. He's also a sommelier, and he deals with like the best artisanal sake there and stores them properly. So
that's important.
If you're a sake snob, I would go there.
What's your favorite kind of sake?
My favorite kind of sake is Muroka Genshu.
Muroka Genju.
Genshu.
Genshu?
Which is unfiltered, unpasteurized.
Wow.
And undiluted.
And that's not a producer, that's that style? How do I ask for the sake menu in Japan?
How do you ask for the sake menu in Japan?
Or how do I ask for sake in Japan? You don't do that. You don't ask for sake in Japan.
Osusume no sake kudasai.
Oh, that was really cool. Get close to the mic. Tell me again.
Osusume no sake kudasai.
Kudasai.
That's what sake would you recommend?
Oh, very cool. All I got was sake kudasai. Okay, I'll say ohayo, konnichiwa. Watashi wa Vince desu. Yeah, I can say eigo to nihongo ga hanase desu. But I don't. I don't speak it. That's all I got. Okay, that was I speak English and Japanese, and then that was the end of my Japanese. Okay, cool. What's the deal with hot sake? Is that a thing?
Well, hot sake used to be a thing when people didn't know how to take care of sake, and they were importing it and not storing it properly, and they used to heat it up to cover up the imperfections in the sake, or the degradation of the sake. But nowadays, with these ginjos, you want to smell the aromatics, and there's refrigeration, shipping's faster these days. So the trend is now to drink them chilled or at room temperature, and there's actually 6 different temperatures to drink sake at. So and it's not usually piping hot. It's not one of them. It's either there's a body temperature, so you just warm it up a few degrees, more than room temperature, and that really brings out the umami in the sake.
Oh wow. Okay, and you can do different temperatures for the same sake?
Yes.
Just to get out different things.
Yes. So this one here that you just had is good at all temperatures. Recommendation is chilled and warm. That was
Junmai Ginjo.
But not all Junmai Ginjos are going to be like that.
Okay.
Okay. There's no one rule.
Okay.
For all sake, just the right polish ratios.
Is it just a different experience from bottle to bottle?
It is.
How do you look for it? By the producer that you're familiar with? Or what if there's something really specific that you want? Is that what you're looking for? Like who does a certain style? Very cool. So you got to know your producer.
You got to know your producer, know style.
And then, so it's sort of the overarching umbrella of the type, like Dai Ginjo, and then narrowing in on the producer that does a style that you like.
Or uses a rice that I like.
Okay, there's different rice
too. Different rices
too. I can't get into that one. That'll be part 2 of sake tasting. Okay, what else do I need to know if I want to get into sake? Where should I start?
You should start watching Vince's channel.
I like her. She's coming back for sure.
The True Sake website would probably be a good place to start. He compares all his favorite profiles with a wine and a beer. So it's very easy to understand.
True sake. Very cool. Thank you so much, Lorene, for hanging out with us today. And I had a lot of fun here. We ate some squid. We had different sake. I learned, I tasted, I understood. So you're really good at what you do. If you liked what you saw here today, please leave me a like. That helps a lot. And until next time, winos, drink sake safely and drink it well. What's the Japanese thing that I... Kampai!